Did you know there's an entire hidden world beneath the streets of New York and London? We're talking about abandoned subway stations, secret tunnels, and forgotten bunkers. Imagine walking over streets that hide stories and history right beneath your feet. It's not just concrete and steel, it's a hidden adventure waiting to be explored. You might think you know these metropolises like the back of your hand, but trust me, there's a whole other dimension waiting to be discovered. We're talking about hidden tunnels, forgotten rivers, and even secret bunkers that have been quietly existing right under our noses for centuries. Now, I know what you're thinking, underground New York. Isn't that just the subway? Sure, the subway's a big part of it, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath New York lies a complex network of infrastructure that would make your head spin. We're talking about layers upon layers of history, technology, and even a touch of mystery. And London? Well, let's just say the city's underground scene isn't limited to its famous tube. The British capital has its own share of underground secrets, from Roman ruins to wartime bunkers. It's like a time capsule down there, preserving the city's rich history that you'd never guess existed if you were just walking around Trafalgar Square. But here's the thing, we're not just going to talk about what's down there. We're going to explore why these underground worlds exist, how they've shaped the cities above, and what they mean for the future. All right, let's kick things off with the heart of the United States. Now, when you think of New York, you probably imagine tall skyscrapers, right? But what if I told you there's just as much going on beneath the surface? Let's start with something that'll blow your mind. Did you know there's an entire abandoned subway station right under City Hall? Yep, you heard that right. The City Hall station, opened in 1904, was once the crown jewel of New York's subway system. With its elegant arched ceilings and chandeliers, it looked more like a ballroom than a subway stop. But it's been closed to the public since 1945. But wait, there's more. Ever heard of the Freedom Tunnel? This isn't your average subway tunnel. It's a 2.6-mile-long underground passage that was once home to a whole community of homeless people. Can you imagine? An entire underground city, right beneath the feet of millions of New Yorkers going about their daily lives. Now let's talk about something a little more, shall we say, unusual. Beneath the streets of New York, there are rumors of alligators roaming in the sewers. I know it sounds like something out of a horror movie, right? But here's the thing. While there probably aren't any gator colonies down there, the city does rescue about 100 alligators annually. Most of these are illegal pets that people have flushed down the toilet. So, next time you're walking over a manhole cover, just remember, you never know what might be swimming around down there. But it's not all urban legends and abandoned stations. New York's underground is also home to some pretty crucial infrastructure. Take the water tunnels, for instance. These massive underground aqueducts, some as deep as 800 feet below the surface, supply water to millions of New Yorkers every day. And the newest one, Water Tunnel Number 3, has been under construction since 1970. And we can't forget about the pneumatic tube mail system. Yeah, you heard that right. Back in the day, New York had an underground network of tubes that would shoot mail capsules around the city at 35 miles per hour. While it's not in use anymore, parts of it are still down there, an underground kingdom stashed away from the surface world. Now, let's hop across the oceans and dive into the underground wonders of London. Trust me, the British capital has just as many underground secrets as its American counterpart. First up, let's talk about something that'll make you feel like you've stepped into a time machine. The Roman baths. Yeah, you heard that right. Roman baths, right under modern-day London. These aren't just any old ruins. We're talking about a fully preserved Roman spa, complete with heated floors, dating back to the 2nd century AD. But London's underground isn't just about ancient history. It's got some more recent and, dare I say, more dramatic stories to tell. Ever heard of the Churchill War Rooms? During World War II, while London was being bombed, Winston Churchill and his war cabinet were 40 feet underground, directing the war effort from a secret bunker. This wasn't just any old basement. We're talking about a fully equipped command center, complete with bedrooms, offices, and even a special room disguised as a private toilet where Churchill could make top-secret phone calls to the U.S. president. Now let's get a little spooky. Have you ever heard of the Camden Catacombs? Don't worry, we're not talking about piles of bones here. These catacombs were actually a network of underground passages used to stabilize horses that worked on the railroads. Later, they became a great place to store whiskey, wine, and gin. But it's not all history and secret bunkers down there. London's underground is also home to some pretty impressive engineering feats. Take the Thames Tideway Tunnel, for example. This super sewer runs for 25 kilometers under the River Thames, at depths of up to 65-67 meters. It's designed to handle London's sewage and prevent the river from being polluted. Not the most glamorous job, but hey, someone's gotta do it, right? And we can't talk about London's underground without mentioning the Tube. But did you know that during World War II, some tube stations doubled as air raid shelters? Yep, while bombs were falling overhead, the people of London were taking shelter deep underground. Some of these shelters could fit up to 8,000 people. Before we continue, if you're curious about the mysterious endless hole in Washington, you must see our video on that topic. Okay, now let's go back to our main video. Now, let's talk about something that'll really make you see these cities differently. They're hidden rivers. Both New York and London have entire rivers flowing beneath their streets. Let's start with New York. Ever heard of Minetta Brook? Probably not, because it's been buried underground for over a century. This little stream once flowed through what's now Greenwich Village. Native Americans used to fish in it, if you can believe that. But as the city grew, it was gradually covered over and incorporated into the sewer system. Today, you can still hear it gurgling beneath the streets if you listen closely in the right spots. It's like the city's got its own hidden soundtrack, but New York's not the only one with underground waterways. London's got a whole network of buried rivers. The most famous is probably the Fleet, which runs right under Fleet Street. This river was once so wide that boats could sail up it. Can you imagine sailing a boat through modern-day central London? Crazy, right? But here's where it gets really interesting. These buried rivers haven't just disappeared, they're still shaping the cities above. In New York, the path of Minetta Brook is marked by the weird angles of streets in Greenwich Village. And in London, the buried rivers sometimes cause inundation when there's heavy rain. It's like these hidden waterways are reminding us they're still there, even if we can't see them. Now, you might be wondering why these rivers were buried in the first place. Well, as these cities grew, the rivers became polluted and smelly. People started dumping waste in them, and they became health hazards. So, the solution? Just cover them up. Out of sight, out of mind, right? But here's the thing. Some people are now talking about bringing these rivers back to the surface. In London, there's even a group called the Tyburn Angling Society that wants to restore the River Tyburn for fishing, but there's just one tiny problem. They'd have to demolish Buckingham Palace to do it. So next time you're walking through New York or London, remember, you might be walking over a river and not even know it. It's like these cities have got their own secret water features running right beneath our feet. All right, so we've taken a journey through the hidden underground worlds of New York and London, but what does the future hold for these underground spaces? First off, let's talk about something called underground urbanism. This is the idea of using underground spaces not just for utilities and transportation, but for all sorts of cool stuff. Think of underground parks, shopping malls, and even living spaces. It sounds like science fiction, but it's already happening in some places. In New York, there's a project called the Low Line. The idea is to turn an abandoned underground trolley terminal into the world's first underground park. They're even working on a way to pipe in sunlight. Can you imagine having a picnic underground? It's like bringing a bit of Central Park down below the streets. Meanwhile, London's got some cool plans too. There's talk of turning some of those old World War II deep-level shelters into everything from data centers to mushroom farms. Yep, you heard that right. underground mushroom farms. But it's not just about fun stuff. As our cities get more crowded, moving things underground could be a way to free up space on the surface. Some cities are already putting things like parking garages and storage facilities underground. Of course, there are challenges. Building underground is expensive, and there are safety concerns to think about. But as technology improves, who knows what might be possible? And let's not forget about all those hidden rivers we talked about earlier. Some environmentalists are pushing for daylighting, bringing buried streams back to the surface. It could help with flood control and create new green spaces in the city. There's also the possibility of using underground spaces to help fight climate change. Some scientists are looking at ways to store carbon dioxide deep underground. So, what do you think? Are you ready for a future where we live, work, and play underground? It might sound strange now, but who knows? In a few decades, having an underground apartment might be the coolest thing ever. The future of our cities might not just be up in the skyscrapers, but down below our feet too. Well, folks, we've been on quite a journey, haven't we? From abandoned subway stations to hidden rivers, from wartime bunkers to futuristic underground parks. Who knew there was so much going on beneath the streets of New York and London? It's pretty amazing when you think about it. These cities that we thought we knew so well have whole other dimensions that most of us never see. But here's the thing, these underground spaces aren't just curiosities or relics of the past. They're a crucial part of what makes these cities tick. From the water tunnels that keep millions of people hydrated to the sewers that keep our streets clean, the underground is the unsung hero of urban life. And who knows, maybe the future of our cities lies underground. As we face challenges like overcrowding and climate change, going underground might be the solution we're looking for. It's like we're rediscovering a whole new frontier, right in the heart of our oldest cities. In the end, exploring these underground worlds isn't just about satisfying our curiosity. It's about understanding our cities better, where they've come from, how they work, and where they might be going in the future. So keep your eyes open and your imagination active, because you never know what secrets might be hiding right under your feet.